April 6th. That was the day I published my first video onto the channel. When I came up with the idea for the Privatelyattack verb series, I thought of video games and their respective verbs. For some games, the verb is shoot or kill, or fight or love. But for the person experiencing the game, that same verb might not apply in an external capacity. My goal for the first 4 videos on the channel were to explore 4 verbs that we the player engage with within a video game, whether we're holding the controller or not. For Resident Evil 4, I chose the verb translate due to a deeply personal anecdote. For my fishing video, it was obvious that the verb was fish. And for my simulation video, I chose work because, well, work sucks, but apparently it doesn't suck to the point where you won't engage with it for free. After all, we live in a world where a game like Power Wash Simulator sells. For the next and possibly last video in the series, I want to talk about one game in particular. And I wanted to talk about a game I respected enough to learn about. Much like my game reviews on my blog, I look at gameplay, story, visuals, and sound. I don't use a numerical score because, like most people, I catch myself looking at numbers in reviews instead of the review itself. For video number 4 in the Privatelyattack verb series, I'm going to talk about a game that has sat in the bus station that is my brain for some time now. Enter Rez. Developed by United Game Artists, published by Sega for the Sega Dreamcast, and Sony Computer Entertainment Japan for the PlayStation 2 on November 22, 2001 in Japan, and January 8, 2002 in the US. In this review, I'll mainly be focusing on Rez Infinite, a remake of the original game with added virtual reality support, developed by Monstars Incorporated and Resinair Incorporated, published by Enhanced Games for PlayStation 4 on October 3, 2016, with versions for PC and Android and MetaQuest 2 released in 2017 and 2020 respectively. When I started writing back in 2019, I flirted with the concept of games that are so immersive it feels like you're in another plane of existence. I'm not talking about the latest open-air game to hit shelves, I'm talking about games that feel like unique experiences. To further experiment with this, I purchased a VR headset back in May. I've never experienced VR before, so getting my sea legs was a lengthy experience. This is coming from somebody who gets carsick pretty often. Over the last couple months, I've gotten into Resident Evil 4 VR, Tetris Effect, Half-Life Alyx, and a couple small tech demos, but no game has left a mark on me more than Rez Infinite. I've played Rez countless times before diving into the VR version. I played the Dreamcast version on a burned CD back in 2012. Heck, I actually already own Rez Infinite on PlayStation 4, but double dipping for the Steam version to play in VR, though, was well worth it. Consider this payback for ripping that copy off all those years ago. When I talk about Rez Infinite and virtual reality being a unique experience, I'm not necessarily talking about the game just feeling immersive. I'm talking about Rez Infinite feeling like an experience outside of our mortal coil. Hear me out. Rez Infinite feels like dying. Few people in the world know what it feels like to die and come back to life. I myself am not one of them. I dabble in pedanticism from time to time, but I'm not going to pretend like I know what I'm talking about in this regard. I've had a note in my phone filled with writing prompts, and games that feel like dying has been staring me down every time I think of something to write about. I didn't know what I was talking about when I wrote that prompt, but I think I know now. According to howlongtobeat.com, Rez takes approximately 2 hours to finish. A game that's succinct in its content is what I like to see. A game that's confident enough to be short. The game's sole verb is shoot. You shoot flying ships, you shoot upgrades, power-ups, and the like. To go to the next stage, you have to shoot the exit once to unlock the door, and another 8 times to leave. You have infinite ammo, so don't feel like you have to conserve anything. At the end of each level, you are only graded on how many targets hit, not shots spent. The player character, the avatar, goes through several evolutions via upgrades on its way to the end of the game. I won't spoil the ending, but if you have a couple hours to spare, go ahead and give it a shot. If you have a mid-range PC, you can download Flycast and play the original Dreamcast version so long as you have the ISO. There's also an HD port for Xbox 360, but your best bet is Flycast or purchasing Rez Infinite for PlayStation 4 and Steam. In a vacuum, Rez's music is easily one of the best trance experiences I've ever had the pleasure of engaging with. I'll listen to this soundtrack on my way to work, while I'm cleaning around the house, or when I'm just sitting on the couch enjoying the company of my own thoughts. In a gameplay capacity, each stage's music will dance with the controller's vibration function, further adding the trance aspect of the game's synesthetic appeal. Playing with the Quest controllers meant that each hand was being held by some ethereal being while the game's music pumped into my ears. It felt like they were taking me on a journey. For the PlayStation 2 version, a device called the Trance Vibrator was developed that plugged into the PlayStation's USB port. The device would then match the vibrations on the controller. The game's lead producer would later confess that the intent of the device was never explicitly revealed, but the R&D team absolutely had sex on the mind. While the game itself is not sexual in nature, you could use the vibrator attachment to... On the visual front, I want to discuss Rez Infinite's main campaign exclusively. Until this point, both Rez and Rez Infinite are essentially the same game, but when it comes down to the visuals, it's a forked road. Don't get me wrong, Rez looks great even today, but Infinite isn't better in a sense, it's just different. Both games run at 60 frames per second, and Infinite can go up to 4K on modern hardware, and on my humble 40-inch television, it looks great. Inspired by Kandinsky's constructivist art of the 1930s, the game's visual style is a cyberpunk techno-luge of sharp angles and vectors. The Y2K retro-future aesthetic of the late 90s permeates throughout Rez's levels. The Lawnmower Man-esque UI design feels appropriate for the time it was developed. It was a good time to be into the internet. Take all of these components, the visual design, the music, the gameplay, and the simple yet thought-provoking story, and you get Rez. You get a product. When you play the product, you feel things, just like you would with any other piece of art. When you strap on a headset and engage with the art in a new scenario, you get something deeper. I feel weird talking about VR as a whole. For the most part, all the games I talk about can be accessed for free if you know how to go about it. For any software in virtual reality, you can't just download a headset. As of writing, to experience Rez in VR, you need to spend somewhere in the ballpark of $320, plus tax for a MetaQuest 2 headset and a digital copy of Rez Infinite on Meta's proprietary storefront. If you already have a copy on Steam, you can connect your headset to your PC and play the Steam version in VR. All you need is a USB-C cable long enough to connect to the headset and enjoy without any risk of something getting destroyed while you move around. I like to play VR on my couch, so I have a 3-foot USB extension cable plugged into a USB 3.0 hub with a 3-foot cable hardwired to it, finally attached to a 3-foot Anchor brand USB-C cable running from the hub to the headset. That's 9 feet of cable between my PC and I. Meta sells a 16-foot USB C-to-C cable specifically made for Quest 2, but that'll set you back $80. If you have a reasonably good internet and a nice modem, you can connect an Ethernet cable to your PC and wirelessly shake hands with the headset in what Meta calls AirLink, a wireless option for connecting your headset to your desktop or laptop. That alone can cost upwards of $350 for the router. Don't do this. So when we dial it back, $300 for a headset isn't bad. If you can justify the price, I say go for it. One caveat remains hidden under the skin, however. Meta is selling their headset for such a low price not just because of the device's lower-end features. Meta, formerly known as Facebook, sees each buyer as a tool in their bid to acquire as much information as possible. Your data has real, tangible value, and Meta uses that value to justify the price of the headset. You see, they're going to make a return on this investment. The return is you. You are the product at the end of the day. So what I'm trying to say is that you should definitely make a Facebook account solely for the headset. Just use a fake name, don't add anybody on this account. As for your personal Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram accounts, that's your business. Or honestly, it's Meta's business now. Okay, so you have a headset, a MetaQuest 2 or something else like an HTC Vive or a Valve Index. You have a copy of Rez Infinite. You boot the software up and you start the game. Give yourself 10 non-consecutive hours to finish this 2-hour game. Maybe you have to play just one stage at a time. Your goal is to play Rez in VR to completion in one sitting. Once you have done this, take the headset off. Each moment, each second, did your experience feel like the final moment? The final second? Those 2 hours are the 2 hours it takes to get to your God. I'm not a religious person, but I believe in religious experiences. Rez isn't just like dying. Rez is like meeting your maker. Rez is like coming back to life.
Resurrection!